that being said, let's go to
The definitive.
the definitive. These are the best 5 receivers
From the best podcast.
of the 2020 season. These are guys you need on your team. And if we're wrong, you can let us have it. But let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Give us your number 5.
So, this is a hot take.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
And if you've been listening closely, you might have noticed I haven't mentioned a certain receiver on here.
Well, yeah, there'd be 5.
I know. At least 5. In a certain
I'm not
receiver.
sure where that segue is going, but okay.
And actually, I put this as the first thing I have in the notes is scalding hot take.
Ooh.
Scalding. And this is Cooper Kupp. Last season, number 7 in receptions, number 11 in yards, number 4 in yards after catch, number 3 in red zone catches, number 2 in touchdowns, and number 7 in fantasy points. And this was in games that he played.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he missed half the season. So, obviously, if you were number 2 in touchdowns halfway through the season, that would be a miracle. But it's not.
For what it's worth, I'm just going to go ahead and say that I have Cooper Kupp ranked as my number 5 as well.
Okay.
So he's ranked as the number 5 for me. He put up incredible stats last year, especially for a team that looked like they lost their way a little bit on offense. It looked like,
I misspoke. He was hurt 2 years ago.
yeah, it's been a minute. I just think that with how bad the offense looked, and I just expect them to bounce back. I don't think the McVay offense is going to look that bad again.
No.
Even with the quarterback play that was questionable most of the season, I just think it's only going to get better from there. They're going to be more creative. I think, a lot of times when you strike lightning the first time, it can sometimes regress and it looks like everything's bad where you might have just outperformed the first time.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to get more towards, I think their mean, so to speak, is going to be better than last year. And I think they're going to move towards the median there versus just kind of falling off a little bit.
And yeah, last year his stats looked good, but he had a game where he left early with an injury, and then he played a couple snaps the next game and left again. So he missed essentially 2 games in there, and he still put up almost 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns on 94 receptions on 134 targets. And even his rookie season, he only started 6 games and had 900 yards and 62 receptions. So when he plays, he is really good.
Mm-hmm. And he'll always get a lot of catches too.
I think he's definitely the steal of the draft for receivers.
Do you have ADP on him or no?
I'll pull it up.
If not, that's a different episode.
His ADP, let me just pull it up here. It is very far back. He's number 41 and number 1, 2.
Is he at least top 20 on receivers? I would hope so.
He's number 15.
Yeah, that's still. I mean, it's still good value.
Yeah, he's behind OBJ, which I think is criminal.
I mean, I could see a world where that's right, but I wouldn't rank it. I didn't, but I wouldn't rank it that way.
And yeah, let's see. In 2018, he got injured, but he was on track for 1,312 on 80 receptions. Last year, he had 94 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 10 touchdowns. When he's healthy, he puts up top 5 production pretty easily. Number 4, we have Tyreek Hill, a less scalding hot take. And this one might actually be hot because a lot of people have him at the number 3 spot. So I'd say lukewarm. But health-wise, everything went wrong for Hill last year. He got hurt. Mahomes got hurt. And he still ended as the number 11 receiver, though, which is very good. He's the best receiver on a historic offense. And if he's healthy, I can see him easily getting 1,400 yards easy. So I like Tyreek Hill a lot. And
I agree,
when he plays and when he's healthy, he is easily one of the most dangerous players, and he could win you a game easy.
No, I agree.
Number 3, Julio Jones, the poster child of consistency, 1,200 yards in every season since 2012, back when the world was supposed to end, except for 13. He got hurt.
Remember when that was fun? That's a breeze compared to this year.
It really
Imagine
was.
the biggest thing you had to worry about was the world ending.
The thing that blows my mind is when people are like, "Oh, I can't wait for 2020 to be over," as if all the problems that we have now are just going to magically. They're going to look like, "Oh, well, it's January 1st, 2021. It's time to go." Like, I don't know.
The new year will start once the election's over. That's how it's going to work.
Potentially. But Julio Jones, 1,200 yards in every season since 2012, except 13 when he got hurt, but he's on track for nearly 2,000 yards that season. He finished great with a down year with Matt Ryan last year. Regression at 31 years old is a concern. However, last year he was number 5 in receptions, number 2 in receiving yards, and number 3 in fantasy points. The thing is with him, even when he has a down year, he's still top 3.
I know we do tend to talk about him like he's like 35.
He's only 31, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it though is his game is more based on probably athleticism and downfield motion.
He's
versus
still
or like not Amendola. The Edelmans of the world do a lot of under like seam routes where
the nice thing with him though is he's always elite fantasy wise without many touchdowns. So it's like it's more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, we have DeAndre Hopkins. He was number 2 in receptions last year.
Whoa.
But he was number 5 in targets.
I'm surprised you have him this high.
He's one of those guys I could see moving down a little bit. He was number 4 in points last year, but he did all this with number 25 in red zone catches. So he's able to score top 5 without getting targeted in the red zone. At least not much. He's on a new team that does like to pass. It seemed like they kind of lost their way second half with passing the ball. But I could see with him, they brought him there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
If they were looking to be a run-first team, they wouldn't have went after him.
Well,
I guess they got him for nothing.
Yeah, they
did
get rid of.
I mean, yeah, they got him for nothing, I guess. But at the same time, I think they're going to throw the ball more. I think there's going to be a step up in quarterback play as well. Although it wasn't terrible last year, I could see it moving forward a little bit with Kyler Murray.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I like that a lot. And I guess one also thing to mention with their running attack, their offensive line for run blocking was not good last year. However, their run block efficiency for Kenyon Drake but all of a sudden went up to number 3 in the league when he played. For some reason, when Kenyon Drake got the ball, they blocked a lot better. Like their grade prior to that was horrible.
Did they block better or was he just better?
It could be a mix of both, but they like their efficiency, like the clean holes he got, which is what they used to measure it. It got a lot better once he got there. I don't know why. I don't know what changed because no personnel changed. But it's just something that I guess concerns me a little with Kenyon Drake just because he had really good run block efficiency, but when it usually wasn't. But if that were to go down a bit, I could see some of his production moving down a bit, which could lead them to go more pass first for DeAndre Hopkins. And number 1 is the clear-cut favorite. It's not even controversial. We have Michael Thomas, number 1 in receptions, number 1 in receiving yards, number 1 in completion air yards, number 1 in red zone catches, number 1 in fantasy points. You know all of it.
I will say he is not number 1 in my heart, though.
No, I agree. No, he's one of them, but not number 1.
I know. Not for me.
Who is number 1 in your heart?
Definitely not him. I don't know. I like the Devontae Adams. I like the DeAndre Hopkins, like those kind of guys. I like OBJ. I like Kenny.
Do you think Michael Thomas lacks grit?
I think.
Do you think he lacks wit?
He's one of those guys that he gets too many
he's boring.
Short slant route catches.
Yeah, 15 catches for 100 yards, and it turns into a 25-point game.
I think it's the reason I poop on McCaffrey a lot.
It's just
he runs a 5-yard route or a 2-yard route.
It's the Russell Westbrook effect. It's like, you shoot every shot. You have the ball in your hand 90% of the game. Of course, you can have all the stats.
And I say this knowing that I'm not being fair to either one of the guys I just was hating on. But they're not. I just don't think of they don't have I just don't think of them as you see that highlight reel.
No, it's 10 catches for 100 yards.
It's not very
all right, cool.
The sexy plays. It's
maybe
the ball McCaffrey a little bit, but it's a lot of the Jarvis Landry type of stuff.
And granted, you have to be good to get the ball that much. So people listening, I don't want them to be like, "Oh, well, you guys think he sucks."
That's why Jarvis Landry's so good.
That's why he's a top 10 receiver according to you. But he doesn't suck. It's just obviously when you get forced out of the ball, the efficiency goes down. But it's just boring. It's you get the most targets there, and you get the most catches and the most yards. It's kind of what's supposed to happen.
If you're not open on a slant, you're not getting the ball. Still, I get it. I'm not saying he's bad.
No, it's just boring. Yeah, he's just kind of boring. And I know people are going to be like, 1,700 yards.
Probably a 4-hour highlight tape of this year that I'm not aware of.
How 1,700 yards boring? I know people are probably going to think that, but it's just a boring 1,700 yards.
I would be interested to see how many plays he had over 30 yards.
It probably wasn't many.
I need to look it up.
I can look it up.
There's probably 50.
Let me look it up while you give your top 5.
All right, so I'm just gonna preface this by saying,
oh boy,
these
are subject
top
to change.
Outside, I have Michael Thomas at number 1, and as we talked about, we have Cooper Kupp at number 5. So my 4 through 2, probably a little bit on the hot take end.
I was very surprised you had Cooper Kupp at number 5.
Yeah, I projected him out very high
because I put that there and I was like, ooh, I'm like, Austin's gonna make fun.
Puts out numbers.
I was like, Austin's gonna make fun of me for this one. No,
consistency is a big thing in my rankings. That's why sometimes I probably downgrade rookies a little bit. And when I say downgrade, I just don't give them high ceilings.
Especially at the top 2 rounds. Like, you'd want to get the consistent guys.
Well, yeah.
Because, I mean, you know what you're getting. Like, you could lose. You're not going to win your draft on the first couple rounds. And if you do, it's because you.
Well, that's where you can lose it, though.
Yeah, but I say if you do, it's because you got like McCaffrey at pick like 6 last year, and he was
or
number
you just
1.
Got him at 1.
Yeah, in like very, I guess, but in very rare situations you do. But you could definitely lose it. Because like last year, my team was fantastic, but I drafted OBJ first round.
I was trying to.
So had I got a good player there, I would have won.
Hypothetically had the number 1 pick, and you know those stupid trade scenarios that we always come up with every year. That if you were somehow able to trade for the number 2 pick,
yeah,
I've been wondering in my head if you were able to get Michael Thomas and Christian McCaffrey, if that would have offset if you traded like your 2nd, 3rd, 4th.
I don't think so, because last year someone in our league had Michael Thomas and Christian McCaffrey, and they didn't even make it to the championship.
Oh, okay. Why was I not aware of that?
Yeah, Luke reminds us about every other day.
Okay, well,
he brought it up last Sunday, which
did
reminded me.
Did he draft both of them without trading?
He traded for McCaffrey.
Okay.
For Derrick Henry, and it was another player. And the 2 players he traded actually were really good too, so it didn't really work out.
Huh.
Like it was like a good deal for both of them.
I was gonna say if he somehow drafted both of those guys with his first 2 picks and then like still didn't do well.
No, he traded Derrick Henry in a really good receiver who wasn't supposed to be great but turned out really good.
Okay.
So like
and
it was kind of like
I completely destroyed my top 10 or my top 5 here, but number 5 was Cooper Kupp. Getting back to it here. Number 4, I actually have Tyler Lockett. So, dude puts up massive numbers every year. He's perennially disrespected. Nobody likes Tyler Lockett for whatever reason because he's
not top 5.
He gets a lot of downfield play. No, he's going to put up. I'm not saying talent-wise he's top 5. I'm saying stats-wise he's going to put up some numbers this year.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson has been talking how he wants to throw the ball more, and it's looking like they might let him do that. And I think. And like I've mentioned previously, DK Metcalf is also up there. I think him and Metcalf are both going to kind of up their work that they're getting. I think they're going to pass it a little more, and I just think that offense is going to look really nice. And so I still think they're probably going to be more run first, but I think they're going to be a little heavier on the pass than they have been, as they've been very unwilling to pass a lot as of the last couple seasons here. So I'm expecting a big year from Lockett. My number 3, Brandon mentioned him, I believe, around number 12, but it's Allen Robinson.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so Allen Robinson put together some insane stats. I believe he was over 1,200 receiving yards with Mitch Trubisky doing his best. Ryan Leaf out there. Yeah. And I'm expecting, I mean, if this dude is putting up massive numbers with Blake Bortles and with Mitch Trubisky.
He's probably pretty good.
It makes me just want to shrug and say, what's the worst that could happen next year? I mean, heck, if Nick Foles got out there, oof. You know, I'm not mad. I'm not mad if Nick Foles gets out there. So
definitely not a downgrade.
I think that Allen Robinson, he's just very consistent. He constantly puts points together. And kind of as we alluded to earlier, this is not necessarily everybody's favorite argument to make, but it can't really get worse, so I don't know why he'd be worse.
They force-fed him too.
And I don't expect that to change. It's not like they traded for or drafted anybody incredible. So
yeah,
I'm expecting him to have a monster year this year. Again, he's another definition, like we talked about earlier, that you don't have to draft him at the number 3 receiver spot.
He's worth it.
Yeah, if you can get him, and I'm sure he's probably a 3rd round ADP. If I had to guess, I have not looked, but
I believe you're correct.
If you can snag him in the 3rd round, oh my goodness, I'm just thinking of getting
3rd round pick number 8 according to this.
Him and Cooper Kupp in round 2, 3 or something, 3, 4. But these are the strategies. I'm going to do something stupid like try to get 2 3rd round picks or 2 seconds.
Yeah. And then they both get drafted in the 2nd round, and then you're completely hosed.
But my number 2, we're moving to Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams had 1,000 yards in 10 games last year. I know Brandon said that it's always something with him. It seems like him or Aaron Rodgers or both of them are always hurt every single year at some point. You can't really project that, and especially to happen for a long span of time. So I think he's going to be relatively safe. And outside of last year, the 3 prior years, he had double-digit touchdowns. And so add that to the monster yards he's putting up. Honestly, I mean, unless you consider Allen Lazard a real option or, any of the other...
He might be.
Yeah, any of the other bums they got over there. I'm expecting a big year from Devontae Adams, and I'm expecting him to receive... I mean, he's going to be getting tons of volume just based on the assets they don't have. Rather than address the wide receiver spot this year in the draft with, potentially the most heavy wide receiver draft of all time, we decided to trade up for a quarterback and not draft a single wide receiver. So,
At least get that second string running back, though.
yeah, and at least our big free agent acquisition wide receiver.
I wouldn't call that big.
Oh, do you remember who it is?
Funchess. Devin Funchess.
All right, massive. The Packers went out and very boldly got Devin Funchess, who's now sitting out. He opted out, so there's nobody on that team to throw to. So Devontae Adams is going to have a monster year, and I know exactly why people are picking him at number 2.
Does the absence of Jimmy Graham worry you with the Packers offense?
Not at all. I think that we're probably better at tight end now than we were. So.
And while you were speaking, I know you mentioned that you have Michael Thomas.
Chase Sternberger?
I'm not sure. You said you had
Stern something.
Michael Thomas at number 1.
I certainly do. I essentially I'll just end it in 10 seconds here. Very good. Going to get 1,000 targets. Going to have 1 million yards, a lot of touchdowns. Draft him at number 1 receiver.
You mentioned about big plays. He ranks number 72 in deep targets.
Well, targets are receptions.
Deep targets. He was only targeted 9 times going deep.
Okay. Well, that's okay. Then that speaks for it. So that's
yards per reception was number 70.
I'm gonna do the in fairness to him moment here. I understand that Drew Brees can't throw as deep as he used to, and I also get that Teddy Bridgewater can't throw over 5 yards. So I'm not necessarily 100% blaming him for that. It just, again, it kind of goes back to prove our point. He's not a sexy play.
There's one stat that is very, very nice in his favor, though, and that is drops. He had 3 drops, and he had 149 receptions. So that is incredible.
A crazy amount of targets.
Mm-hmm. That's receptions. Targets, he had almost 200.
Sorry, reception. Isn't it wild that, let's just say he had 200, and we'll round up his deep targets. So he had 10 deep targets on 200 pass attempts.
Yeah, it's 5%.
Yeah, that's wild. And does it say what they constitute a deep target?
It does not. I believe it's 15 yards, though.
There's no way it's 15.
I'll have to look it up.
Okay. I would imagine it's probably like 30, 25 or 30. But either way, it's not. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That is wild, though.
It really is.
Jeez. Yeah, and as we said, he's not bad. He just doesn't have a sexy highlight tape, if that makes sense.
They just play the Madden offense with him, where they only throw it to their best guy, and they only use their running back. Like, they use 2 players the whole game.
It's the most obnoxious thing ever. That stupid idiot who always runs the 3.5 yard slant and keeps getting first downs.
Yeah.
Just like the guy who runs the counter sweep, like the sweep or the draw, gets 3.5 first down.
And they go for it on 4th every time.
They use the entire clock to you get one possession in the first half. Yeah, that guy.
Hate to see it.
They always trick you too, because then you're so antsy to get the ball that you go 3 and out and have to punt. And so,
yeah, but then when you're at 3, like, well, I'm not going to get the ball back.
Yeah.
So then you go for a stupid 4th down play.
I don't know how anybody plays that way and has fun, but it's a good strategy.
And when you go for it on 4th and miss it, now they have prime field position, and you're like, why did I do that? But then you think, and you're like, okay, I get why I did it. But
it's a tough scene.
We're
going to be doing the do not draft list. This is more so based for me on ADP. Brandon, what have you made your list?
I didn't mind
ADP,
off? But that was a great catch.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Unlike Nelson Aguilar. So we are going to go ahead and give you, for 2020, a couple players each that we are not drafting due to their ADPs. Brandon, would you like to lead us off, and we'll just go every other?
You're not going to like
we'll
this
do
one.
These, how about 45 seconds or less each
You're
one?
not going to like this one. Mine is Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
For the exact same reason I did not like Dalvin Cook for our do not draft on the last segment. It's the thing. I have no problem with them as players. It's just for where they're being drafted at, I'm not going to do it.
3 years straight of 10 touchdowns or more, and then last year he had 1,010 games.
He's ended as a top 5 receiver one time in 6 years. And it could be factors outside of his control, but it's just every single year he's drafted as a top 5 guy, and he never does it. I mean, never. He does it once, but...
All right, fair enough. I disagree, but that's okay.
That's fair enough.
That's why we're 2 of us here.
Yes.
My first one's going to be, and these are going to be quick because we've already kind of hit on this a little bit, but my first one's going to be Will Fuller. For his ADP, just don't do it.
Wide receiver 29.
Don't do it. Yeah, I don't care if he's wide receiver 35, 40. Don't do it.
Especially his ADP is ahead of guys like Julian Edelman and Jarvis Landry.
There are way better options out there.
Like, why?
For the price tag, and ones that are going to play more than 6 games. So just stay away from Will Fuller.
They're actually good.
He is an official. Stay away.
Well, I guess I had him on my list too, so I'll say somebody different because I don't like him either. Let's see here. My next one would be DJ Moore. He's being drafted as the number 11 wide receiver, and it's not even a question of his talent. It's more the question of his quarterback's talent and the fact that for the number 11 receiver, I like a lot of guys behind him a lot more. And basically, the only reason I would ever pick up DJ Moore is if he would like fall to like the fifth. He's getting drafted in the third.
Mm-hmm.
If he'd like fall to the fifth, I'd probably think about it. But right now, I just could not do it. Like, especially like Juju's behind him, Amari's behind him, Cooper Kupp's behind him. There's a lot of good guys behind him, and they're like a decent amount behind him. And I think this draft is really deep in general, but especially deep with the wide receivers. So I'm not going to waste a premium pick on a guy who I have no faith in, or not no faith, but
not no. So you have some.
I have a little, but not much, and I don't like him for where he's being drafted at.
All right, my next one going to be real quick hit on this guy as well. AJ Green is my number 2 stay away. He is drafted at number 28 overall for wide receivers, as far as wide receivers go. Again, kind of the same situation. I don't like to touch guys who are hurt a lot, and so I'm just going to stay away from AJ Green. Again, 6 games in 2 years, I believe it was.
That's tough.
I'm off AJ Green. I think that you can do a lot better with that pick. So
he's one of those guys.
Stay away from AJ Green.
He's one of those guys. There is a very, very off chance where he could be really good.
If he played 16, I would not be saying this, but he's not playing 16. That's a podcast promise right there, as we like to call it. Yeah, that's a suit yourself guarantee. Brandon, who do you got next? I have one more remaining, just as a heads up.
All right, so I guess I have 2 left. So to make it even, it is Will Fuller. I had him there as well. I don't like Will Fuller because he is being drafted at wide receiver 29, and there is no way I would even consider drafting him there. He didn't even make my top 40. He has yet to eclipse 700, or he's yet to have 700 or more yards in the season. And he's like Devonta Adams to a much, 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 much lesser extent, where it's always
they're not even in the
no. In the sense where it's always his year to be good. Like, obviously not Devonta Adams good, but it's always his year to do something, and he never does. Like, he's like a household name for fantasy owners, and he has never put up any decent production.
And because of health, but yes, that counts.
It's
that
always
matters.
something.
Yeah, I mean,
it's always
health
something.
matters.
Like, it's just everybody in the fantasy community knows of Will Fuller, but they shouldn't because he has done nothing to warrant that recognition. And now, for whatever reason, I know what the reason is. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins is gone, so everyone's like, "Oh, well, Will Fuller's going to magically play 16 games for the first time in his career." No, he's not. And like you said, we project these stats out with 16 games in mind. I would never even think about playing him for 16 games or writing in 16 games because it's not going to happen. Especially, he'd have light usage rate and get hurt. So when he has a heavy usage rate, we think he's going to stay healthy all of a sudden? No. I want nothing to do with him. I want a receiver who could actually get more than 500 yards in the season. And when I'm looking for that, I'm not looking for Will Fuller.
All right, and just to wrap things up, my last wide receiver to stay away from, not even stay away because I don't think he's that good. I just think you can do a lot better with the players around him, is going to be Deebo Samuel. As I look here, he is currently ranked as the wide receiver 34, and I know that's not a huge investment, but, a couple, just looking here, people behind him, Brandon Cooks, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamison Crowder. Just a lot of those guys, I think, are going to have a better year than him. I know he is a very high upside play. His ceiling is potentially higher than most of those guys, but I still think that I would play it safe, avoid him, and take some guys that are a little more known or a little more guaranteed to do better. So Deebo Samuel, I am staying away.
That's a really good one. I didn't even think about Deebo Samuel, but yeah, that is, I agree with that wholeheartedly. But he's not my next one. My last one is actually, it's gonna be DJ Chark. Again, I am not sold on DJ Chark. He had 5 really good games last year. He had an okay rookie season. 5 fantastic games last year to start the season, and his last 11 games, well, I did have a couple good games in there. They weren't like, it was like the tale of 2 halves, except there was a 1/3 and 2/3. It was rough, to say the least. I don't like him, especially for where he's being drafted at. He's fine, and I think he could make the leap. However, he's just as likely to not in my book. So with that, I don't like him much. His ADP is, let me pull up the ADP site real quick. He's getting drafted really, really high, whereas like guys like Amari Cooper are within 10 spots of him on the wide receiver. Cooper Kupp is only a few spots in front of him. We have A.J. Brown and Robert Woods a couple spots ahead of him. And guys behind him are like Keenan Allen. We have Courtland Sutton, who is significantly further back than him. And I have way more faith in Courtland Sutton than I do DJ Chark. guys like him, like Stephon. I even have more faith in Stephon Diggs, Devontae Parker. Those guys are behind him too. And even if you go back like 20 spots, you can get a guy like Michael Gallup, who isn't great, but I feel like he's just as good as Chark. And he's like 20 receiver spots behind him. So for where Chark's at, I don't like him. I know you like Chark, but to me, I'm not a big fan of him.
Yeah, he's a little dangerous, but I think he's going to be good.
Especially like 2 or 3 receivers in front of him on the ADP is Robert Woods, like the safest guy on earth. And Robert Woods at his safest is just as good as DJ Chark has been at his best. So at that point, I'm not even big on Robert Woods, but I'd rather have him over DJ Chark.